evening and welcome to the webinar organized by Novo Nordisk this evening. Before I introduce the speakers for the evening and hand over the session to them on the topics, on the given topics, it's my responsibility to present few corporate slides, brief corporate slides, and I'll hand over the session to the respective speakers. Novo Nordisk has been founded in the year 1923 by Dr. August Logan Medico. Close to 100 years of leadership and diabetes care contributing to scientific, humanitarian, and social progress, and Novo Nordisk has got a strong diabetes care research network. Novo Nordisk Education Foundation, a non-profitable organization which has been started in 1997, which builds diabetes infrastructure through innovative public-private partnerships. In fact, India, one of the premium initiatives which has been started by Novo Nordisk Foundation a couple of years ago. The objective of this project is to reduce the HbA1c burden of by 1% in the next 1,000 days. We're going to complete those 1,000 days by next July. And being a Novo Nordisk employee, it's my privilege, I'm proud to say that half of the world's insulin is really supplied by Novo Nordisk, which means one of the 2 insulin users must be using Novo Nordisk insulin across the globe. And 30 million people globally use diabetes care products of Novo Nordisk. And of course, the accessibility, affordability of Indian patient would be a prime challenge for us. And Novo Nordisk ensuring the product availability, even the remotest corner to bring the accessibility. The affordability part, we have got wide range of insulin by name, human insulin, mid-fat, active insulin, modern insulins, no mix, no rapid, never married. We have got new generation insulins. Rhizodec, Fiasp, and Placebo, which are more efficacious, which are more safe, and also adds convenience to patients these days. And these different segments of insulin which serves every section of the society within an economically diverse country like India. So this is the agenda for the evening. The first topic is on quality of life and essential yet less. Discuss aspect of diabetes care. And the second topic would be improving quality of life in the people with type 2 diabetes mellitus. My experience with the formulation. And of course, the speakers doesn't require any introduction, but still it's our responsibility to introduce the first speaker for this evening, our own Dr. Sirpuri Krishna Mohan sir, endocrinologist and a senior diabetologist there in Kannur, at the Sirpuri Diabetes Center, Kannur. And the second speaker we have got, I just have Dr. Sirpuri Trimadevi ma'am, an endocrinologist at Sirpuri Diabetes Center at Kannur. Sir, without any further ado, sir, I'll hand over the session to you on the given topic, sir. I'm making you as a presenter.
Yeah, thank you so much, Praveen, for your kind introduction. As usual, it's pleasure being with Praveen always.
Pleasure is ours, sir. Sir, please accept that pop-up, sir. Please.
Yeah.
And request to audience, if you have any questions, you can type it on the chat panel. At the end of the session, Dr. Sir will address all your queries.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Praveen, and thanks to Novo Nordisk for giving us the opportunity to be the speakers this evening. And very good evening, my dear professional colleagues and my dear friends. And at the outset, so let us forget about the bad experiences of 2020 and a warm welcome to 2021. We are already into 2021. Let us hope that everything would be right. Let us be optimistic and let us be positive. With that a positive note, I would like to start my session. Today we are talking about the quality of life, an essential yet but very less discussed aspect of diabetes care. It is a very important topic, but then people think that it's a very boring topic. Now, to the possible extent, I will try to make it a lively session, because this is what is the ultimate goal is the quality of life. Even for a normal being, a human being, or even a patient, without quality of life, there is no life at all. A crippling, miserable life is not called a quality of life. So let us get into this new topic today. And this is my financial disclosure. And today's agenda will be like it's divided into three parts as usual. The first one is the quality of life, an important treatment outcome, and second point will be the quality of life in diabetes management, understanding the intricacies, and the third and the last one will be like individualizing the therapy, the tools to assess and improve the quality of life. So let us come to the definition of life. The life is defined as the period from birth to death, a very simple definition, and the sequence of physical and mental experiences that make up the existence of an individual, and the aspect that distinguishes a vital and functional being from a dead body. That's what I told. So it is so important that from birth to death, let us have, all of us have, and your patients, let them have the quality of life with our treatment, with our non-pharmacological therapies, with our pharmacological therapies, with our counseling regarding the lifestyle modification and all. Let them have a cripple-free, wonderful quality of life until they die or until they live, whichever is earlier. So, according to the WHO, the World Health Organization, the definition of quality of life that reflects the view that quality of life refers to a subjective evaluation, the individual's perceptions of their position in life in the context of the culture and value systems in which they live in relation to their goals, expectations, standards, and concerns. This is the definition according to the WHO, which was way back in 1998 at Geneva. This is the definition by WHO with regards to quality of life. And the quality of life is multifaceted. Just like we take this particular the diabetes is all the time we say it is the omnious octet. That's what we say about diabetes. Like the quality of life is also multifaceted. Like the quality of life depends on various factors like health related quality of life, the material aspects of the quality life, and the quality of the spiritual and psychological life, and the quality of working life, and the quality of life in the family, quality of social life, and quality of the leisure, and the environmental related quality of life. And these are interchangeable, and other factors which play into action are the physical state and the mental state and the psychological state. That's what we way back in our medical college days when we were undergraduates, the definition of health comes in the community medicine. Actually, the physical state and the mental state and the psychological state, and the self development and education and social relationship and self expression, and the leisure and the environment and the security. These are all the factors, that is multifaceted factors related to quality of life. The HRQOL, it is nothing but health related quality of life, in turn is a multi-domain concept that represents the patient's general perception of effect of illness and treatment on physical, the psychological, and the social aspects of life. These three constitute a very major the definition of health. Actually, it is not only the mere physical health, it is the social health and also the mental health, that is the psychological health. And what quality of life means to a treating physician in managing diabetes. So coming to our topic, our domain, the diabetes, keeping it the improve to improve the quality of life for the patient is our goal. It is one of the goals for us. We should improve the quality of life for the patient. That is the reason the patient reaches us, and establish a teamwork between the patients and their family and the diabetes educators. So this concept has not yet picked up in our country so far, the diabetes educators. Now still slowly it is coming up, and you in the US or the Western scenario or the different parts of the world, the developed countries, there are definitely the certified diabetes educators. For example, American Diabetes Association continuously trains up the diabetes educators. They are called the certified diabetes educators, CDEs, from the ADA, and they play a vital role in counseling the patient even before they see the doctor. And like nutritionists are the paramedics, they take care of the patient in a better way before the patient actually sees the doctor actually. And there will be counselors, psychological counselors also will be there in the entire setup, the diabetes setup actually. And finally, to achieve a clinical and treatment outcomes related to diabetes mellitus. This is what a quality of living means to the clinician in managing diabetes. So now we come to this particular the Charaka Samhita. The Charaka Samhita, this is nothing but on the right hand side it is Charaka Samhita, Charaka Samhita Sutra Sthanam. This is the good old ancient textbook of medicine written by our Charaka, the first physician in the world. He had written this book way back in, like, he was born in the 300 BC actually. Charaka was born in Kashmir, some part of Kashmir we still don't know, but he was born in the 3000 BC, and he died exactly after 100 years, and in 200 CE, that is the common era. The quadruple of Atreya, who this Atreya is, let us just remember our ancestors, the legendary ancestors of Indian culture and the heritage actually. Atreya was the some more even prior to Charaka, he was the physician, and Atreya has actually narrated the guidelines, and he had got 6 disciples with him, and one of the disciples had written this particular book called the Charaka Samhita, and later on Charaka has done many more modifications and many more compilations, and he has divided this particular Charaka Samhita into 120 subdivisions, and complete starting from the etiology of the disease to the pathology of the disease and everything, and what is the available Ayurvedic treatment for that particular disease. So it is a very invaluable treasure of this particular the textbook of the almost is a compendium of the Ayurveda medicine, ancient Indians, which was written basically by Atreya, and later on modified by Charaka. So it is named after Charaka, that is Charaka Samhita. And we should, I can never afford to skip making a mention of this legendary Sushruta. Sushruta is the father of surgery. He is the father of medicine actually. Charaka is supposed to be the father of Indian medicine or the entire medicine in the world. And Sushruta is supposed to be the surgeon. Sushruta is father of surgery, father of plastic surgery, father of neurosurgery, and father of even ophthalmic surgery, because Sushruta is the one who performed the first cataract in the world, first neurosurgery in the world without anesthesia, and the technique he adopted is there was no anesthesia those days. Though he asked the patient to get engaged himself into this particular playing of chess those days. So he was so deeply concentrated in playing chess with the other opponent. So meanwhile, Sushruta used to perform the surgery. Put it after Mala. So he is known as the father of plastic surgery. He is father of the general surgery. He is the first surgeon who did cataract in the world. And we don't remember this Charaka and Sushruta anywhere in the country. But the Royal Melbourne Medical School has got a big statue of Sushruta in front of the medical school, saying that he is the father of the surgery, he is the father of the plastic surgery, and he is the first ophthalmologist who has done this particular cataract. So coming to the quadruple theory of Atreya, the patient-centered care. See, long ago, even before see, don't get confused between these BC and ECE. They are almost one and same. The BCE and the BCR. BC is before Christ, AD is Anno Domini, and BCE is nothing but before the common era. before the common era is BCE. BCE and BCE are one and same. So the four components that are necessary to treat diabetes or any other disease are the physician is on the front side, and without a patient we cannot do anything. So these two are very integral part, and the drugs are very important, and the attendants, that is the family or the nurses, the healthcare infrastructure includes even the family of the patient attendants or the family members. They play a vital role. That's what our International Diabetes Federation has given a theme in 2019, actually that's couple of years ago, has given a theme on this World Diabetes Day, November 14th of 2019, that without the support of the family members, we cannot achieve a reasonable the target goals in diabetes. That's what. This is the quadruple theory according to the master physician Atreya. And turning point in my life, and that is when I understood quality of life is a tool to achieve the target. This is the take home message for everybody, and that's what we are doing. We are striving to achieve this particular point, that's to maintain the quality of life throughout our life. And coming to the first part, the quality of life is an important treatment outcome in diabetes management. And the key challenges in diabetes management, we have got multiple key challenges in day-to-day practice when we deal with the patient suffering from the diabetes, whatever it may be, the type 1 diabetes or the type 2 diabetes or the gestational diabetes or these other forms of the diabetes. So the treatment adherence is very important, and the therapeutic inertia is very important, and poor glycemic control and the hypoglycemias and the cardiovascular disease and the overweight and obesity and the chronic kidney disease, all of the above can negatively impact the overall well-being of an individual. So we need to counter all these problems, and let us see that our patients, they just don't get into the short-term complications like hypoglycemia or the hyperglycemia, or the long-term complications, either the macrovascular complications, including that nowadays the latest name is the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, which is defined as the cardiovascular disease and the cerebrovascular disease and the peripheral vascular disease or the peripheral arterial disease. Put together the CAD and the stroke and the PVD or the PAD, put together the three components, we call it, because the common soil is only the atherosclerosis. So for these three, the common soil is atherosclerosis. So they have changed the term to atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. So let us see that our patients, they don't get into the chronic kidney disease, to start with the diabetic kidney disease, and we try to counsel against this particular overweight and obesity, and we have to come out of these hurdles like the therapeutic inertia. We should be very prompt in escalating the dose, and the therapeutic inertia is very very bad in reaching the quality of life for the patient, and the treatment adherence, and then these are all the multiple factors which are going to determine this particular the multiple challenges which are involved in our day-to-day management of diabetes. Literally we face this day and out. The impact of diabetes and quality of life. Actually on the y-axis, you see the proportion of people with diabetes that is in percent, and the x-axis has got multiple factors like reduced physical health, reduced emotional well-being, and the finances, and the leisure activities and work and studies, the relationship with family and friends and peers. And the people with diabetes reported a negative impact on the following aspects of living, that the 62% they complained that they had a reduced physical health, and 46% had a reduced emotional well-being, and 44% had financial problems, and the 38% the leisure activities, and they lack in the leisure activities, and the 35% of the patients suffering from diabetes, they complained about the work stress and the study stress, and the 21% they said the problems with the relationships with the family, the friends, or the peers. So these are all the various factors that impact the quality of life in a patient suffering from diabetes. So biomedical factors influencing the quality of medicine. They are again divided into, on the left hand side you find the patient related, and then the right hand side the flexible factors. Like, okay, on the patient related factors are the renal and hepatic dysfunction, micro and vascular complications, and hypoglycemia, other acute diabetes complications, that is either this the hypoglycemia or the diabetic ketoacidosis or HNS, that is hyperosmolar non-ketotic syndrome, and the flexible problems, the type of regimen, their pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, the meal patterns and the delivery devices, frequency and timing, and the patient profile, that includes the lifestyle actually. And the psychological factors influencing the quality of life. See, the psychological factors in diabetes, these are the multiple psychological factors which are involved in the diabetes, the emotional and the crisis relations, the diabetes distress and the psychiatric disorders and the phobia reactions, and they all lead to the poor glycemic control, the self-care behavioral treatment adherence, and reduced quality of life, and the increased diabetes related complications. So these are interrelated. These the psychological factors in diabetes and the complications what we have mentioned, the poor glycemic control and the increased diabetes related complications and the reduced quality of life, they are all interchangeable. And when we come to the emotional and crisis reactions, they include shock, denial, anger, guilt, anxiety, and the diabetic distress. That includes the overwhelmed for self-management. Sometimes they get frustrated, difficulty in communication, distress and differential food in the family, and the psychiatric disorders, the depression, anxiety, delirium, eating disorder, schizophrenia, and the phobia reactions, fear of starting on insulin, fear of needles, fear of injections, fear of hypoglycemia, fear of the complications, and the obsessive behavior. These are all the psychological factors that are involved in diabetes, which lead to the influencing in the quality of life. And let us come to this diabetes distress, an emotional response characterized by extreme apprehension, discomfort, or dejection due to a persistent perceived inability to cope with the challenges and demands of living with diabetes. Maybe an economical burden, maybe a physician related distress, maybe an interpersonal distress, maybe a regimen related distress. So let us come to the prevalence of depression in people with and without diabetes. See, we all know all the clinicians, the primary care physicians, or the secondary care setup, or even the tertiary care setup, or the specialist or the super specialist, whatsoever it may be, a physician, whoever it may be. So we know that diabetes is associated with a large portion of depression, and most of the time depression and diabetes is something like a tip of iceberg. Most of the times we see the tip of the iceberg, and majority of the times we don't even see the tip of the iceberg. So the underneath the quantum of depression may be so huge, so vast, that we cannot even imagine. Patients they resort to like suicidal tendencies, and they commit suicides also. So we need to trace out the depression which is associated with the association of diabetes, and the global prevalence. And then you find two bars all the time, a light green and a dark green. So a light green is this subset of population with no diabetes. On the contrary, the dark green is the patients suffering from diabetes. The global prevalence of depression in non-diabetics, that is the patients who don't have the diabetes, it is 8%, whereas it is almost 20% in patients suffering from diabetes. So when we come to this particular separate continents wise, the South America is the 18% is the depression, in patients without diabetes. In patients with diabetes, it is 35%, whereas 6% in Africa without diabetes, 10% with diabetes. It is very less when compared to the other continents. Africa is in a better state actually, and the Europe, the 6% of the population is suffering from depression without diabetes, and 18% of this thing are suffering with diabetes. And the incidence of depression in non-diabetics is 6% in Asian population, and the 15% is the percentage of the depression in patients with diabetes. This is the statistics when we take it globally. On the whole, it is almost 3 to 4 times more in diabetes. The depression is more in diabetes when compared to the normal population, because it's a lifetime disease, it's a lifestyle disease, and it's a lifestyle disorder. So the patient has to take the medicines lifetime. The patient has to go for non-pharmacological methods like this particular the diet, exercise, weight reduction, a cessation of smoking, a cessation of alcohol throughout his life. So naturally one gets depressed in the initial period, and that is the time when we have to counsel the patient. This is not only for you, there are crores and crores of people living with diabetes and the earth with quality of life. In that way you have to counsel the patient that not to get into a serious major depressive psychosis. And why do diabetes and depression occur together? See, they are all the common antecedents. Multiple factors are involved in this, like starting from genetics and the fetal development and the inflammation, and the neuroendocrine disorders, and the poor diet, and the poverty and deprivation, and they all lead to the type 2 diabetes and type 2 diabetes leads to psychological burden of diabetes, effects of hyper and hypoglycemia on the moods, and the changes in the neurotransmitters, and which in turn they lead to depression. The reason for this is the above said, the common antecedents, they lead to this particular diabetes, and diabetes in turn leads to depression. The vicious cycle of depression you can clearly see. You need to break at some point in this vicious cycle, or else it becomes a vicious cycle and the patient gets into depression. You cannot do anything to that particular patient. The only thing we need to do is that we need to send the patient to the psychiatrist. So at some point of this vicious cycle, if you can break as a clinician, you will be a successful clinician. And coming to the vicious cycle of depression, you find the lack of social interaction. This is the biggest problem in our country, the lack of social interaction, the lack of exercise or the physical exertion, the unhealthy behavior such as smoking or binge drinking, the diets of processed foods. Nowadays it has become a big problem for us, even in the metros, even in the country like India also. The frozen food and the processed foods have become the big barrier for us, and they adversely act on the diabetes. And coming to this, the bidirectional relationship with behaviors and depression. Most often the depression leads to behaviors, and the depression that is maybe because of lethargy, that leads to lethargy and lack of motivation, extreme mood swings and low energy levels and indecisiveness, and this leads to the poor diabetes management and diabetes related complications, and this increases the diabetes stress, which increases the vicious cycle of this particular depression. So at some point of this cycle, we need to break the link. So then only we'll be able to see to that the patient doesn't get into depression. The patient has got a quality of life or quality of living. So that everybody has to keep in mind, my dear friends. And let us see the impact of depression and diabetes in quality of life. So here you see the 4 bar diagrams. So on this thing, the SF is nothing but short from health related quality of life questionnaire. This is SF36 score. This is on the x-axis, and you see the general health, vitality, mental health, and physical education and social function. put together called the quality of life. And the light, the green one, first one, green bar with 75 is no DM and no depression. And the blue, dark blue is diabetes only, and the grey one is depression only, and the red one is for diabetes and depression. And you can see the figures actually, the with regards to the general health, with regards to the vitality, with regards to the mental health, and with regards to the physical function, with regards to the social function, how say the quality of living is like high, like 75 when compared to the general health, and vitality it is 65%, and the mental health it is, the score is 80, and the physical function is 83, and the social function is 88 in those segments where there is no diabetes and no depression. So coming to this again, only diabetes you find 61%, 64%, and in sometimes mental health is only like it is 85%, even more than the no diabetes this thing, and it is 83%, and the 72%, and this is 87%, and depression only is to the tune of 57%, 42%, and 59, and the 69 and 66, and DM and depression it is 35. The score is going low with diabetes and depression. See 35, 32 and 55, 45 and 51. That is, the quality of life is going down when both these are coupled. The diabetes is coupled with the co-associated with the depression, which is not seen. We don't generally don't look into that particular aspect. We just only see the short-term complications and the long-term complications. Long-term complications again microvascular, macrovascular, blah blah blah. But it is high time we have to look at the mental health, that is the depression associated with diabetes, and the mortality and the comorbid depression and diabetes. And the first line, the grey one, you can see no diabetes, no depression, and the dark blue is depression only, and the diabetes only is the light blue, and the diabetes and depression. This is in the form of a graph. That was a bar diagram. See, the comorbid depression is associated with an annual mortality rate of 8%. So the death toll is somewhere around 8%. The annual mortality rate is 8%. So when followed up for the 10 to 12 years of period. And management of diabetes distress. So we have on the left hand side the therapeutic patient education, the self-management skills, and the diabetes counseling and the diabetes support. The diabetes therapy by the year, that is listen, counsel, and filter unnecessary potentially harmful messages. That's been a big problem nowadays, because we get on the social media the dirty messages, the fake virals are being promoted like anything, and the patient has got a lot of apprehensions by seeing that. See, let us see, like we take this COVID-19 per se. So we had a lot of fake viral messages that you have to do this, you have to do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, and all. These are all not scientific. They are all just this spread like anything without any authenticity. And like now it is going on bird flu actually. So nothing to worry about this H5N1, but still we are so much scared that every time we see bird flu, and it has been there from 1950 actually, and from 2000 onwards only the bird flu has become little bit, and it is taking a death toll also, and nothing to worry about this. But okay, if you get a right message, that is good. If you get a wrong message, you will be annoyed, the patient will be annoyed unnecessarily. So then talk to your doctor. That is the only method how I request all the clinicians to convey the message to all of your patients. If you get a message, whether it is fake or the real, you just talk to your clinician. He will tell you it is fake or it is real. What to follow, what not to follow. Not the social media that teaches you. Social media is a good tool, but that is a double-edged sword. On one hand side, you get all the good information, and everything. On the other hand, there are some people who do all these sorts of irrational, the spreading of the messages like irrationally, and the false messages. So that is not to be taken into consideration. Just by talking to a clinician, you'll be rid of all the harmful messages and minimizing the discomfort of change by peer support and lady educator support, and tools to enhance the ability to handle diabetes distress. That is, these are the studies like CARES and the water, and the patient motivation for insulin and injectable therapy is for CARES, and water is motivational interviewing, the motivational interchanging in person with diabetes. And from the patient perspective, it is diabetes education and coping, the skill training, that is AEIOU approach. The family, the coping, the skill training, the AEIOU approach, and the healthcare system, the patient friendly care and responsible patient centered care, that is very, very important. And water is nothing but welcome warmly, ask and address, explain and with empathy, and resume and ensure return of the next consultation. And AEIOU is assess and analyze the coping mechanisms, elimination of the negative coping strategies, and introduce the internalize and this positive coping skills, and observe the changes regularly, and upgrade one's understanding continuously. That is about this particular the CARES and water and the AEIOU. See, diabetes affects the whole family. Yes, it is absolutely correct. Diabetes affects the whole family because one person, either the mother or the father, is involved in this particular this thing. They are affected with diabetes, or both the parents are affected. They are suffering from diabetes. It is going to obviously affect the whole family. So they have got so many dietary restrictions, and they have got so many social problems. They have got the emotional and the mental problems, and the sum of this thing, like we sum up this. This is the reason why the International Diabetes Federation on the 2019, that is the November 14th, on the World Diabetes Day, it has given a theme straight away that diabetes protect your family. That is diabetes management. Every year the International Diabetes Federation, on the eve of the birthday of our the great legend, the Grant Frederick Banting, the discoverer of insulin, his birthday is November 14th. So World Health Day, World Diabetes Day is celebrated all over the world by International Diabetes Federation on the eve of the Grant's birthday, and it celebrates only not to the celebration, it is to raise the levels of awareness and to give some message to the patients and to counsel the patients and to give the valid and the recommended statements, recommended messages, core messages to the entire family members of this particular the person who is suffering from diabetes. And diabetes management requires the daily treatment, regular monitoring, a healthy diet and lifestyle, and a continuing education. This I tell in my every speaker program. So this is a constant method we need to follow. The daily treatment, the regular monitoring, and every patient should abide by these principles. Unless otherwise counseled by the treating physician, he cannot realize the importance of all these factors. Like he should take the treatment on daily basis. He should be in regular monitoring, either the self blood glucose monitoring or whatever it may be, or even nowadays some tools have come, like the Harvard people have introduced a 14-day monitoring that is very useful and very convenient. That is Liber Pro Freestyle. So the regular monitoring and the healthy diet and lifestyle and a continuing education and family support is very important. That's what the International Diabetes Federation that stresses upon this family support. Without family support, the patient cannot achieve a reasonable target of what we fix, like the fasting, the targets for the fasting and the target for the postprandial glucose, or the random, or the HbA1cs, or the blood pressure goal. That is possible only with the support of the family members. All healthcare professionals must have the knowledge and skills required to help individuals and their families manage diabetes. And education and ongoing support should be accessible to the individuals and their families to help manage diabetes. So the key message here is, you counsel the family, entire family if possible. Ask the patient to get his family members to a chamber at least once in a year or at least twice in a year, so that you can give some sort of counseling to the family members along with the patient, so that he feels secured, he feels protected. Even the family members are also, they don't get into some sort of apprehensions and false impressions that they are lingering about this diabetes usually. So make it a point to counsel the patient along with his family members, so that it is the complete counseling. And coming to this, Plato, who is the ancient Greece physician, is an artist, is a musician, is a mathematician. You name a thing, it is. The Plato, he was in 370 BC. Like, he was born in Plato was born in somewhere around some 428 to 427 BC, and he died in 348 347 BC, and his original name was not Plato actually, it is Aristocles. Aristocles was the name given by his parents. He was born in the Athens, that is the old Greek empire. Now till today, the Athens is the capital city of Greece. He was born in Athens, and he died in Athens also. And he was a great philosopher actually to start with. And his teacher was Socrates was his teacher. Socrates was brutally murdered by the kings then. So, and he was taught by Socrates, and to name his the famous disciples of the Plato, that is Aristocles, is the Aristotle. Aristotle is the Plato or the Aristocles is the teacher of the Aristotle actually. And this gentleman Plato was taught by the Socrates, the greatest philosopher actually. What he says is, the greatest mistake in the treatment of disease is not that there are physicians for the body and physicians for the soul, although two cannot be separated. See, such a meaningful this thing he has put it in writing way back in 370 BC actually. So this is about Mr. Plato. The original name is Aristocles, and this Plato was a name. It's something like an award which was awarded to this particular Plato, this Aristocles, by his gymnastic teacher. We are seeing his robust health, actually the broad shoulders and the broad forehead, seeing his intelligence and all. This what it means in this the Greek is like broad shoulders, broad head with a robust health is called Platus. That is in the ancient Greece. So he was called Plato, and he died in Athens only, and in the year 348 and 47 he died. And coming to the last part, that is individualizing the therapy tools to assess and improve the quality of life. See, you can go through this busy slide. The measures of diabetes related quality of life. So the measures are the diabetes quality of life, DQOL, and the diabetes 39, D39. The audit diabetes dependent quality of life, that is add QOL, and the neuro QOL. And you can just go through this description in the subscales. These are all the scales to measure the diabetes related quality of life. You can just go through this slide. It's a busy slide. And coming back to this SF36, what we had seen in the earlier slides, the short form 36 version 2, that is SF36V2, that what it says is the 8 domains and 2 components of the SF36 core. The 2 domains are physical component and the mental component, and the 8 domains are physical function and the mental health and the role of the physical function, and the bodily pain and the general health, and the mental health, the role of emotional health, the role of social function, the role of vitality, and they are interrelated, interconnected. The domains are scored from 0 to 100, and the domains are aggregated in physical component summary, that is PCS, and the mental component summary, that is MCS measures, reported as norm based T scores. The average range for group is a mean T score between 47 and 53. Highest scores represent the better health related quality of life. So as the score goes up, that means the patient has got a better quality of life related to this the health related quality of life. And this is EQ5D5L. This is the EQ5D5L descriptive system, the 5 dimensions. You can see the mobility and self-care and the usual activities, the pain and discomfort, and the anxiety and the depression. And these all put together again can commonly be a challenge with progressed diabetes or the older patients, and anxiety depression leads to commonly that can pose a challenge in the young patients. And you can see the scale here from 0 to 100, the EQ visual analog scale, that is this is as the score goes up, the quality of life is improved, and the score is going down, the quality of life is reduced. And coming to the summary, so the first thing is identify the impact of quality of life. Apart from achievement and individual glycemic parameters, it is also essential to ensure improved quality of life as per the individual requirements, and they assess and search for the factors behind the reduced quality of life. It can be related to the disease or lifestyle or mental factors, can range from poor glycemic control to presence of comorbidities, hypoglycemia risk, and the family and financial background, and the variety of other factors. And discuss and address the psychological needs of the patients. It can help overcome the psychological barrier associated with adherence and self-care, while achieving long-term benefits in terms of better health outcomes and the glycemic control. And finally, we just conclude the session by saying you all must be well aware of this film, the Patch Adams, which was released all over the world, and especially in the United States. It was a Hollywood film actually. The film name is Patch Adams, and the hero's original name is also Patch Adams. It was released on 25th December of 1998 actually. He played this Patch Adams played a role of Robin Williams in this particular. The character's name is Robin Williams in that particular film, the Patch Adams, and then the hero's original name is also Patch Adams. And the theme of the film is, you can go through the OTT, you can watch the film. It's a wonderful film. He all the time, the hero being a doctor, all the time he believes in treating the patients with humor, and the colleagues, the other professional medical colleagues, they don't like this type of attitude because they were not able to do that in their practice. But the hospital where this particular Robin Williams, the Patch Adams works, the patients were terribly happy with the Dr. Patch Adams, and the fellow professors and the colleagues were very happy, and the nurses are also very happy with this attitude. So what I conclude is by saying laughter is the best medicine. All of you are well aware of that. That's what the essence of this film, Patch Adams. Our job is improving the quality of life, not just delaying the death. It's one of the dialogues which has been portrayed in that particular film, Patch Adams. You can go through this in the OTT. And by saying a big thank you for your patient listening, I sign off.
Yes, sir, Dr. Sir, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, views, and insights. And that too based on, of course, 3 decades of experience. I just started with what is life and the history and evolution of medicine in India, which nobody knows.
Yeah, I just wanted to enlighten. That's what.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. You have taken to the history.
Yeah. From BC to AD, current 2021. Thank you so much for your comments, Praveen. Thank you so much.
And who else can speak better than this? The person who can lead quality of life and also ensures quality of life to all your patients. For the better person to speak on this topic, I really like this.
Thank you so much, Praveen. Thank you. To the possible extent, I just wanted to make it lively by quoting some examples. That's it. Because all the time, community medicine is a neglected subject in our life. So also the quality of life, and nobody cares for depression. Actually, depression is the root cause. Until unless it is addressed, the patient doesn't have the quality of life. He has to develop a positive attitude, and we as clinicians, we have to drive the patients towards a better quality of life, better quality of living. That's what the patient has got a miserable life. We are the ones to take care of them. We should own our patients, Praveen. That's what my this thing inner sense is. You should try to own your own patients. Then they feel like very comfortable with the doctor. They don't have the patient inertia. They are not scared of the doctors and nothing else. If you, as long as you be like a family member, you be like a friend, you be like a peer to this particular patient. So you spend some time with some humor. Every time in my chamber, every patient will go out so happily that I crack some jokes. Actually, I put some jokes on myself also to make the patient happy. Somehow, like we should lighten the situation in the chamber, Praveen. That's what I always strive to do that. And it has become some sort of the routine work in my day-to-day clinical practice from the last 30 years. Improving every day, try to improve myself every day, learn something. Always I would like to say that I would like to be a student rather than a teacher always. So at least learn one single sentence, new thing that is a day is going to help me a lot in the long run, and in turn my patients will be benefited. That's what.
Thank you so much for the message, sir. And it's a good tip to all the participants who are there, or your followers, your well-wishers who are there in the your call. Thank you so much for being with us, sir, and